Look, think you need to literally choke down a massive protein shake the absolute second you drop your last dumbbell? Or that you've got to eat 100% perfectly all the time or your muscles are just going to shrink away? No way. Today, we're tearing down the bro science. Welcome to the explainer that's going to completely rebuild your understanding of muscle nutrition. We're breaking down the exact, evidence-based blueprint for a lean bulk. No dirty bulking, no guessing, just the pure science on exactly how to eat to build lean muscle and keep the fat off. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this is honestly one of the most persistent, annoying myths in gym culture, the dreaded 15-minute anabolic window. You know the panic, right? You finish your last set of curls, and suddenly you're sprinting to the locker room to mix your powder before your gains supposedly evaporate. It's crazy. But the science? It tells a totally different story. Nutrient timing definitely matters, for sure, but not nearly in the way most people think. But hey, before we even touch meal timing, we've got to look at what you're actually putting on your plate.
Which brings us to part 1, the lean bulk foundation. Listen, you cannot outtime a bad diet. So, establishing a calculated caloric surplus is absolute step 1. Take 2,800 calories, for example. This is a precise, science-backed daily target for a 163-pound lifter who wants to pack on lean mass cleanly. You absolutely have to eat more than you burn, but it has to be controlled. This isn't a free pass to eat everything in sight, right? You might start right here at 2,800 and then slowly, maybe over a few months, bump that number up to 3,200 or 3,400 just to keep the scale moving. And the goal is doing all of this while maintaining your current body fat levels.
So, where do those calories actually come from? If we break down those 2,800 calories, your daily target is going to look like this: 225 grams of protein, 300 grams of carbs, and 75 grams of fat. Now notice that healthy fats make up roughly 25% of the total intake. That's the sweet spot. Once you set that 25% for fat and lock in your protein target, you literally just fill in the remaining calories with carbs. Simple as that. But wait, you might be looking at that protein number and thinking, 225 grams for a 63-pound person? That is incredibly high.
And you know what? You're right. That's pushing over 1.5 grams per pound of body weight, but the literature is super clear here. Extremely high protein intakes drastically improve your overall body composition. Plus, it's the most satiating macronutrient, meaning it actually keeps you full, and it packs the highest thermic effect for digestion. Your body burns calories just breaking it down. And for anyone still worried about those old myths, it is proven entirely safe for your kidneys, your liver, and your bones. When it comes to recomposition, a simple cost-benefit analysis shows you literally have absolutely nothing to lose by aiming high.
Now, while you believe hitting those macros, you might be tempted to just rely on a bunch of supplements to cover your nutritional basis. But as nutrition researcher Alan Aragon perfectly puts it, a poor diet with a multivitamin is still a poor diet. Hit the nail right on the head. You should always try to max out your whole food options first. If your diet is already packed with nutrient-dense foods, honestly, you might not even need a multivitamin. We really need to think of things like multivitamins and fish oil as simple nutritional insurance for those days we miss the mark, not some kind of magic pill to fix a broken diet.
All right, moving on to part 2, perfecting pre-workout fuel.
Your pre-workout meal is the powerhouse. It's responsible for fueling the intense training that actually drives your muscle growth. Ideally, you want to eat this about an hour before you hit the iron. The strategy here? It's called the multi-transporter method, based on some awesome research by experts like Dr. Jorn Tromelin. You want a soft minimum of about 1 gram of carbs per kilogram of body weight. And this brilliantly illustrates the real secret here: co-ingesting glucose and fructose. See, they actually use completely different intestinal transporters for absorption in your body. It's like having 2 separate highways for energy. So the smartest thing you can do is combine a starchy carb, like maybe a sandwich on some ancient grain bread, with a fructose-rich fruit source, like a banana or some blueberries. This absolutely maximizes how much energy your body can absorb and deploy while you're lifting.
But hey, what happens if you're in the gym for an absolute marathon session? Let's compare that pre-workout fuel to your intra-workout fuel. Pre-workout is all about those slow, complex carbs for sustained energy. But if your workout is stretching way past an hour, or if you're training fasted, you can actually use fast-digesting carbs right in the middle of your session. We are talking about simple sugars here, literally gummy candies like fuzzy peaches or a sports drink. The tactical rule: start eating them about 30 minutes into your workout, aiming for roughly half a gram of carbs for every minute you train. It acts like a direct IV line of energy straight to your muscles, keeping your performance completely dialed in.
Which brings us back to part 3, the post-workout window myth.
So, you drop that last weight, you are totally exhausted. And honestly, your appetite is probably completely shot, right? Do you force down a shake right there in the locker room? Well, the anabolic window is real. Your muscle is definitely most sensitive to amino acid uptake after resistance training, but it is absolutely not a 15-minute window. Now, what's really interesting about this is that it's actually a massive 4 to 5 hour period that surrounds your entire session. According to the absolute best evidence we have right now, as long as you don't space your pre-workout meal and your post-workout meal by more than 4 to 5 hours, your muscle growth is completely optimized. Seriously, if you had a great pre-workout meal at 1 p.m., you just need to make sure you get your post-workout meal in by 5 or 6 p.m. No panic, no sprinting to the shaker bottle. Just get home, relax, and eat when your stomach finally settles.
And when you do finally sit down for that post-workout meal, keep it simple. Your appetite might still be a little low, so you can totally push those heavy carbs to later in the day. But for protein, there's a really fascinating tip from Lyle McDonald's protein book, combining a fast-digesting whey protein with a slow-digesting casein protein post-workout might actually offer better recovery benefits than just consuming either one on its own. Mixing a whey casein blend into a quick, easy bowl of oats, man, that is the perfect low-stress way to hit those macros.
Moving into the home stretch, Part 4, Strategic Nighttime Muscle Building.
As we get to the final hours of the day, that's usually when your hunger juices really start flowing. Your body knows it's preparing for a long overnight fast. So this is the time for a highly strategic evening meal, something like a really hearty homemade chili. Think about it. You've got ground turkey delivering a massive 62 grams of protein, you throw in chickpeas and kidney beans for complex carbs to replenish your energy, but the absolute real key here, it's the fiber from those beans, peppers, and veggies. By cramming your evening meal full of fiber, you dramatically slow down your rate of digestion. And since you're about to go 10 to 12 hours without eating while you sleep, slowing down that digestion keeps you full and keeps those precious nutrients trickling into your system all evening.
And that leads us directly to what researchers call a massively missed opportunity for athletes, the pre-sleep anabolic window. Think about it for a second. Sleep is basically a 10 to 12 hour fast, and when you are fasting, you are at your absolute greatest risk of muscle catabolism, which is literally just a fancy way of saying your body's breaking down its own muscle tissue for energy. Nobody wants that. So how do we fight it? By strategically eating a slow-digesting protein right before we turn out the lights.
Let's move to the ultimate pre-sleep snack and see how this builds incredible overnight recovery. It really relies on one superstar ingredient, cottage cheese. Why? Because it is absolutely packed with casein protein. When casein hits your stomach, it essentially forms a slow-digesting clump. I know it sounds a little weird, but trust me, it's exactly what you want. It takes a really long time for those amino acids to be digested, which gives your body this steady drip feed of muscle-protecting nutrients all night long. Pair that cottage cheese with some light carbs, like a few crackers to restore glycogen, and maybe a small side of micronutrient-dense greens like a kale salad for digestion, and boom, you have entirely bulletproofed your overnight recovery.
So the crucial point is this. Building a lean, muscular physique isn't about perfectly timing some magic shake or stressing over impossible rules. It's about executing the science consistently. You hit your calculated caloric surplus every single day. You eat a high-protein diet because we know it works. It keeps you full, and it's incredibly safe. You fuel your hardest workouts by combining different carbohydrate sources an hour before you lift. You completely stop panicking about the post-workout window just as long as your meals are within a few hours of each other. And finally, you protect all that hard-earned muscle with some slow-digesting casein right before your head hits the pillow.
It is time to stop the dirty bulking. It's time to stop guessing. You now have the exact, science-backed blueprint for how to fuel an optimized lean bulk. The only question left is, knowing what you know now, are you really going to miss that pre-sleep anabolic window tonight? Get into the kitchen, apply these strategies, and let's start building.